On today's episode of Phinside The NFL, the Miami Dolphins Week 1 preseason victory comes with some fallout and at the cost of the health of one of their key depth pieces on the offensive line. We will talk about that. We will look at the PFF grades. We will talk about McDaniel and his updates regarding Aaron Brewer and Isaiah Wynn. Plus, man, is this the best rookie class we've seen since 2021? We got a ton to talk about. So do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and let's get to that updated intro.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. It's going to be a touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphins fan. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. Man, I tell you, getting back into the rhythm of things. Whew, that was I forgot how truly long those streams can be and how rewarding they can be sharing in the game with all you guys. But man, I'm telling you, here's a little thing people probably don't realize with YouTube a little bit. When you get off one of those streams after 3 or 4 hours, the adrenaline is rushing, it's pumping, and it is hard to come down from those kind of streams immediately, man. You're on like just a natural endorphin high. They're just firing and you're just going. So, man, I appreciate all of you for coming through on this Saturday evening. I was planning to go a little bit later, but I had to cook food for the fam. And I really didn't even get my thumbnail till like around 5:30ish. So yeah, there was just a lot going on today as I'm coming back from Miami and still settling into things. As far as tomorrow, I might be live tomorrow. Whiskey. Yeah, good one, Tony. I might be live tomorrow with at least Jennifer and Neil. Brittany might join us. I think she might be a bit busy, it all depending on what her deal is. But we might bring back Dolphins After Dark tomorrow night, maybe a little bit, now that we got a lot to talk about, right? So, yeah. So we might have another show tomorrow, and then, this week we're going to do it all over again, because next Saturday we got joint practices this week. I believe we got practice on Monday, then we got joint practices on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then they are playing the Washington Commanders on Saturday night. If you didn't watch some of the games today, man, Jaden Daniels, he looks fantastic. Caleb Williams was looking real nice out there too for Chicago. But, I think a lot of us are like, yeah, Caleb looks awesome, but we know Chicago's going to bear it somehow. We know they're going to screw it up somehow. It's just a matter of, a matter of how long and to what extent they screw it up. I think that's where we're all at with the Chicago Bears, right? So, but hey, man, football is back. It's in the air. That fall smell is starting. The leaves are starting to change a little bit of color. That smell of fall being upon us is, right. The aroma is in the air. So, man, it's a fun time to be a football fan, as it is back. That's for sure. So, yeah, man. And let's just talk about last night a little bit. I want to go over my observations with you guys, because, I do it all year round during the regular season. I'm expanding this year. I'll do it through the preseason for you guys. First of all, that playing surface, the grass, man, it was not doing any favors for anyone on either side of the football. Let's put that. Let's get that out there first and foremost. QB battle 2 was underwhelming, but at least Skyler can say he settled in a little bit, right? After the interception, he looked like he got a little bit more comfortable, started settling a little bit. Mike White looked like he never settled in, which is crazy because at joint practice this week, Mike White was making the throws. Mike White looked, especially day 1, looked a lot more settled in than Skyler did. So it's crazy how joint practice was a total opposite in terms of the QB2 battle. Jalen Wright, baby. I know it's early. I get it. But I'm giving myself the Barry Horowitz pat on the back. 2 years in a row, the Dolphins have drafted a running back that made my annual draft man crush list. And Jalen Wright looks like a hit, baby. I mean, we saw the vision. We saw his ability to cut. I mean, he was finding gaps. He was, showing that burst to the edge. I think they've hit again on running back, ladies and gentlemen. I think we are on the precipice of having the deepest running back room in the NFL. I truly, honestly believe that. I really, honestly believe that. Malik Washington, he's going to make an impact this year. Plus you have to love his willingness to get his hands dirty with the effort he showed as a blocker. Now, going back, and this is on the receivers, but still a play on Skyler and Mike White. A lot of easy drops from the wide receiver core on what should have been a lot of easy catches. In fairness, that didn't help Skyler or Mike White out very much. Braylon Sanders and Willie Snead were the two biggest culprits when it came to this. I thought, at least. I think they need to be handed their bus tickets out of town. I mean, what are we saying here with Willie Snead and Braylon Sanders? Braylon Sanders been dropping football since his rookie year. Do y'all remember when he came in his rookie year and he dropped that deep bomb? I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was from Tua. I want to say it was from Tua. It was from someone. It was a deep bomb over the middle of the field, and he dropped it. And it hit him right in the breadbasket, and he dropped it. And Braylon Sanders just continues to look like he has suspect hands. I mean, I don't know what else to say with Braylon Sanders. And Willie Snead, he's Willie Snead. I mean, even Tanner Conner had a strong game, and then he took a ball right off the helmet that he probably should have had. But Tanner Conner, to me, looked far better than he did in joint practice against Atlanta all week, as he's clearly pulling away from Fortson for tight end 4 with his performance, but then the injury happened. So Fortson now has a chance to capitalize. Yeah, Kyrick McGowan, but I'm not expecting anything from Kyrick McGowan, right? Because J-Hag said 87 drop. What are we expecting from Kyrick McGowan, who's a UDFA brought up? Braylon Sanders has been here for how long? Willie Snead's been in the league for how long? There gets to a point where Braylon Sanders, you've been put on the practice squad the last couple of years. You got to start showing that there was a reason you were put on the practice squad in terms of development and growth. And Willie Snead, you've been around the league. What's going on? Right? Now, Patrick Paul, he went from day 1 of joint practice with Atlanta Falcons, getting 3 or 4 flags for holding calls in joint practice, and then he got another one on day 2. And Butch Berry was beelining for him after every hold and every bad rep. He went from that to being damn near lights out last night, held his own in pass pro, looked strong climbing, right? He was opening lanes for Wright in the run game. And what I think you saw too from his game was a little bit of that nastiness we were expecting to see from a man that size rocking a face mask that's as cool as the one he rocked. So very, very encouraging from what we saw with Patrick Paul. Very, very encouraging. Listen, don't come around here. I ain't never been one of the people that's hated on this pick. Now, I've said he needs work, and I will continue to say he needs work because I still believe that. I don't think you saw the guys going up against 2, 3s, and 4s. Don't think that's a finished product. So, that's going to be even better for his growth and development moving forward, I think. Jack Driscoll, he's another one who exceeded my expectations, not only based on reports from camp, but what I saw myself. He looked, He's giving you thoughts. Do you put him at center 2 and just don't move Eichenberg around and stick and continue to let him grow and develop at right guard? Right? That has to be the thought. I thought another guy who did pretty good yesterday was Sean Harlow. Sean Harlow has taken reps at center. He's taken reps at left guard. He came in for Kion Smith yesterday, who we'll talk about in a bit here. I thought Sean Harlow looked good too. I thought we saw a little bit of depth popping out and showing us on the offensive line a little bit yesterday. So I was very impressed. Very, very impressed. Now, I know we've seen hints of it all offseason, but I think McDaniel got it right with Anthony Weaver. We saw him on the side of the field. He had the towel around his neck like he's Mr. Perfect. And, chewing gum at 90 miles per hour, doing his damn thing. Anthony Weaver, I like the pre-snap and post-snap looks we saw specifically in the secondary. I like some of the blitzes he teed up. I thought Anthony Weaver I think McDaniel got it right. Let's hope Anthony Weaver could be here for like 2 or 3 years. In terms of game balls, Patrick McMorris is going to get my defensive game ball. I mean, I was raving about him all last night during the stream. Far cry from when we drafted him. I thought he would have to look good on special teams for him to make the team. But he was an absolute tackling machine yesterday, covering all kinds of space, every blade of grass, it seemed like. I felt his 2021 tape was better than his 2023 tape. But, I thought you had to go back to San Diego State to really see things that you liked on tape with Patrick McMorris. Clearly they did. But label me super impressed by Patrick McMorris yesterday. All right. Sierra Neal, I thought he looked really good in special teams and defense as well before he went down for an injury. I think they made a good move there. It really feels like they made a good move there. I thought Marcus May also helped me made me feel better with Miami safety's depth. I thought he was pretty good. Ethan Bonner, he had a very solid outing, I thought. I mean, the one play where we saw where he got beat with massive separation, we go and find out there was basically a face mask on the receiver against him, and that's how the separation was created. I thought Storm Duck was really good in coverage when he was targeted. That kid can play. He is not just a fancy name. Storm Duck can play. He had a couple good pass breakups. I thought he was good. Hell, I even thought Isaiah Johnson had some good reps in coverage. Jason Maitre, he continues to be a revelation for that secondary too this offseason, preseason. He made some plays. I thought Nick Needham had that beautiful pass breakup. And again, I'm not going to harp on him too much for that muff punt. I mean, that happened so quickly after the ball bounced off the field. I'm not just going to kill the guy over it. And he looks healthy. Needham looks like his body is in the best shape it has been in, right? I think Curtis Bolton was another tackle machine like McMorris. It seemed wherever the defense flowed to, specifically on the first 2 levels, it was him leading the way, and he was just had a nose for the ball yesterday, I thought, from what I saw. Channing Tindall, you got to give him his props. We've been waiting a few years, and we finally saw something out of him yesterday. Like a bat out of hell when he was sent on that blitz. He got a free look, and he made the most of it. He had a couple other nice plays too. I think a lot of us breathed a sigh of relief that we finally got to see something out of Channing Tindall that we've been waiting for. And I think a big topic in discussion, obviously all offseason, was Christian Wilkins' replacement and the 5,000 guys they brought in to fill that void. But I think from what you saw with, Neville Gallimore and Leonard Payne and Brandon Pilley and Isaiah Mack and throw Benito Jones in the mix, I think this team is going to be just fine with their rotations inside next to Sealer and next to Calais Campbell. I really do. Because I thought the run defense was one of the most impressive things about yesterday. I really, really was really impressed with the run defense. My boy Grayson Murphy started off hot with that tackle for a loss. He took a bad penalty But, it also seems like that injury slowed him down just a little bit throughout the game. I thought Quentin Bell was okay. I expected more out of our edges as a whole, pressure-wise, yesterday. But hey, you're not going to hear many complaints from me overall, man. I mean, when you look at it here, we still haven't even seen Chop and Kamara. But when you look at what we saw from Jalen Wright, when you look at what we saw from some of these UDFAs, when you look at what we saw from Patrick Paul, when you look at what we saw from Patrick McMorris, my boy Malik, I mean, this might be the best draft class Miami's had since 2021. And we ain't even seen Chop and Mo yet. It's only up from here. How I feel in terms of performance. Now, sure, we might, be brought back down to earth over one of the next 2 games with Patrick Paul. Maybe Wright doesn't have as much success in one of the next 2 games. Maybe. But that was a very impressive showing from the rookies, from the draft picks to the UDFAs. You just got to be happy with this class right now. Reason, when you say Jalen Wright's running style is similar to Ronnie Brown, he's faster than Ronnie. He's got a little bit more burst to his game, better long speed. I think he's just more explosive with his first step, with his cuts. I think he's just more of an explosive. And remember, I am a massive Ronnie Brown fan. Everyone knows this. Right? Because when everyone talks about the Wildcat season, everyone wants to give Chad Pennington the flowers, but I'm always there to remind you, no, man, that don't work without Ronnie Brown. So there ain't many bigger Ronnie Brown fans in this community than me. But Wright has a higher ceiling, for sure. Now, if you're talking about the physicality and the willingness, to run through tacklers, to take on tacklers, to hit the gap, then okay, yeah, he, similar in terms of that sense. But when you look at the overall package of Jalen Wright, I think there's more traits and athleticism to work there with him than there was with Ronnie Brown. And thus I think the ceiling is higher with Jalen Wright than it was with Ronnie Brown. So, I mean, Jimmy knows what it is. The right stuff. All right? You already know what time it is, baby. So, that's my guy right there. So, man, I've had, 6 draft crushes? I've had, man, there's like 6 or 8. There's a bunch of my man crushes from drafts over the last couple of years on this team. And they've drafted like 6 or 8 of them over the last couple of years. So, and they're hitting at running back, baby. They are hitting at running back, and I love it. So Joe Gonzalez says we need a backup quarterback. You ain't lying, kid. You ain't lying. Another thing, too, is, and we'll get into it here, is, after what you guys saw from the offensive line, should we still go out and add some more bodies? Because I'm still down to add more bodies. Yes, Jeff. I don't think you're wrong, brother. I don't think you're wrong at all. I think by the end of this season, everyone's going to look at our running back room. We've got a 3-headed monster between Wright, Mostert, and A-Chain. We have a legit 3-headed monster, like legitimate. So, over 325 of you in the room on YouTube. Smash that. We are strictly live on YouTube too. So smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Appreciate all you coming through on this Saturday evening. So you know what? Let's start off. Let's get into this because there's something I want to talk about with the news that broke today. So, we'll get into that. There is some stuff I want to talk about with the news that broke today. I have lined some things up here. So let's get into it. And let's start off with Miami Dolphins today. They had to make a roster move. So they brought back Chasen Hines, and Kion Smith has been placed on the reserve injured list, ladies and gentlemen. and he is out for the season. You know, Ryan Hayes did his best Liam Eichenberg impression. By that I mean getting another offensive lineman hurt. And, you know, I'm just joking around. I'm sure Ryan Hayes already feels terrible about that. So I'm just joking around. But, Kion Smith, he is going to be out for the season. Now, why does this matter? Because guess what? After Kendall Lamb, he was our next depth tackle. Like, this is actually a key defense. This is actually a key piece for the offensive line when you think about it. And they're even cross-training him at left guard. So the Kion Smith stuff, that's actually a key loss. Now, on the flip side, will this open more opportunity for a guy like Patrick Paul? Well, we will talk about it. We will talk about that in a little bit. But, I mean, that could be something that comes of it, right? Especially during the preseason, right? But Kion Smith, that is a key offensive line depth piece on an offensive line that can't afford these type of injuries. They just can't. They just cannot. Right? It just can't. And last night after the game, we got a little bit of an update regarding another offensive lineman and two other offensive linemen. And so let's talk about that. And then I want to get into what I want to talk about with the offensive line. So this is from Mike McDaniel's presser last night. All right. You can see he was even published at 11:57 after the game. So Miami Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel offered an injury update on Aaron Brewer after Friday night's preseason defeat on of the Falcons. Brewer, Miami starter, left the last team practice early and appeared to have a hand examined. Asked if Brewer's injury is believed to be more long-term or short-term, McDaniel said it would be week to week, I'd say. So yeah, we feel good about where he's going. So without Brewer, who Miami signed this offseason from the Titans, they could be in trouble at center. It is true that Liam Eichenberg, who may be a starting guard for Miami, was a starter at center for much of the 2023 season and was adequate at times, but Miami really doesn't have depth at center. Other players on the roster who can play the position include Andrew Meyer and Jack Driscoll, but many centers have had trouble in training camp with quarterback-center exchanges. That was an issue for Tua Tagovailoa and converted guard Connor Williams in past years, but they're able to straighten it out. Still, Brewer now missing snapping reps with Tua is far from ideal. McDaniel said it puts some pressure on said exchange. That's something that I look at like this. Most of the time, you're not fortunate enough to have no health-related issues on the offensive line for a whole season. So it's better to have this scenario now than for the first time in Week 10. You would prefer not to have it at all, but that's not always a reality. I think it will take some extra commitment for some guys to make sure that everyone's coordinated, but it's something that we've been familiar with here. We've had this scenario before, so we'll be banking on those reps, and there'll be guys having to do some work. McDaniel was asked if there was an update on projected starting left guard Isaiah Wynn. Right now, there's not really an update, McDaniel said. I know he's working hard and diligent, but again, that has been kind of up in the air and gray. I'll be notifying you guys when it's close to field action. We'll see. I'll be visiting that on Monday. He has not practiced this summer. During the game, Kion Smith and Tanner Connor left with injuries. And he said with Kion, he's really been developing his craft, so we're hopeful, but, we now know that's no good, right? And he was placed on season-ending injured reserve, and Jason Hines had to be brought in. All right, so let's talk about this because we got some issues here, ladies and gentlemen. We got some real issues here, okay? First of all, I see the conversation. Patrick Paul is not a guard, ladies and gentlemen. He's a tackle, okay? He does not have the hip flexibility, the bend, and, you don't want him. He's not the type of guy you want working in the phone booth. That's just not a strength of his. So Patrick Paul is a tackle. He is not a guard, so get that out of your mind, okay? Now, continuing on here, I want you to think about this for a second. If the season was tomorrow, here is our starting lineup with injuries of what we're dealing with right now. I want you to think about this. Let this settle in right now. Armstead at left tackle, right? Robert Jones at left guard, Jack Driscoll at center, Eichenberg at right guard, and Austin Jackson at right tackle. Listen, you can get by with only one of those guys starting, I think, on the interior. That's how I feel. Like, we like what we saw from Jack Driscoll, like what I saw from Sean Harlow, but those are depth guys. We like Robert Jones and what we've seen this offseason from him, especially compared to last year, but that's a guy you want starting maybe 1 or 2 games. You don't want to have to rely on him for 17 games. Eichenberg's the one you want to stick him at right guard and see what you have there. Right? Because we've invested all this time, all this effort, not to mention what they invested draft-wise and financially in him so far. Get that. But if you're locked in on Eichenberg at right guard, you need 2 legitimate vet starters. Sorry, let me rephrase that. You need 2 legitimate vet options with starting experience at center and left guard. That's how I feel. Especially center. And hey, I'm a guy who brings solutions. I don't just bring problems to the table. And when you look at it right now, guys, all right, so let's start with guards. Who's out there right now? They brought in Phil Haynes. He can play left guard or right guard. Because I think they need to bring in a guard and a center. A veteran guard and a veteran center. And I'm talking guys who are like veteran number 2s who have legitimate starting experience. They don't have to change the world. Sure, you can go trade for James Daniels, but I'm being realistic here a little bit. You know, I think you need to go get a Phil Haynes or a Mark Lewinsky. Both guys can play the right side or the left side. Both sides. That's what I think you need to do. All right? Like, real talk. I think Glowinski, you know, hell, you want to go see what, I mean, if Trey Turner's healthy, right? Because I know he tore his quad, last July, right? If Trey Turner's healthy, see what Trey Turner got. Now, he's 31. Again, these are 1-year stopgaps, but these are solutions. You can go see Halavatai, see what Vaitai's got. You know, there are options here. Justin Pugh. I would go get one of these guys that can play. You know, Glowinski and Haynes, they can play both guard spots. They have legitimate starting experience at both guard spots. You want to go trade for James Daniels? Sure. Go do it. Pay him the $8 million this year. I'm down. You got all that cap space. Roll over the rest if you got to. All right? Now at center, I get it. Connor Williams is gone. But there are options. They brought in Scott Quisenberry. That's a guy who I would have signed as soon as Aaron Brewer. Listen, when we were sitting at joint practice and everyone I was sitting with, I said to them all, as soon as Brewer hits that sideline, I would have been on the phone and saying, Scott, get in here. We want you. Now, if you don't want a Scott Quisenberry, here's one I think not a lot of people have talked about, but he makes a lot of sense if you are looking to bring in a depth center. Now, I don't know what's gone on because I know he got hurt this offseason. But if Brian Allen is healthy, I'm calling up Brian Allen. Yeah, I believe Alf said that on Sideline T. Shout out to that episode. If you haven't seen it, go check out Sideline T. They just had Alf on. Fantastic conversation. But Brian Allen, if he's healthy, now I know he got an injury settlement like at the beginning of this month, so I don't know what the deal is. All right. He might be injured. But I would check in and see Brian Allen, see how far away are you? Because listen, I would bring Brian Allen in here just to be the backup for the season. I mean, Are you going to find a better scheme if he's healthy now, if he's able to work with you in September? This guy's not going to be back till or if he's going to miss the whole season or he's going to be out for 8 to 12 weeks. Okay, I understand. But if we're talking this is just a couple week injury and he'll be back by the end of August or mid-August, or, Brian Allen, guys, you're talking about a success. He's had a lot of success now he's not a Pro Bowler, but he's had a lot of success in McVay's scheme over in LA, right? With the Rams, who run an offshoot of the outside zone that we run. Paul is not playing guard, guys. I already went over this because I see people saying, can he play right guard? He's not playing guard, guys. Doesn't work well in a phone booth. That's not his game. All right. It doesn't have the hip bend and the flexibility you'd like to see. No. He's a tackle. So, he's strictly a tackle. So, I'm just saying, Brian Allen is a guy that I'd look into, in terms of see where he is injury. But if he's not good to go, what would it hurt to bring in Scott Quisenberry? Hell, would it hurt to bring in a guy like, I don't know, Connor McGovern as well, who's another guy who's had success? Right? I believe he worked with Butch Berry too, right? I know he's a free agent right now. So, Connor McGovern, and we're talking about backups here. We're not talking about everyday starters. So, you got options. You got Quisenberry. You got McGovern. You got Brian Allen if he's healthy enough. Again, I don't know where he's at since the injury settlement. And then at guard, you got Phil Haynes and Mark Lewinsky who can play both guard spots. Halavatai who can come in. Justin Pugh. Trey Turner if he's healthy. There are options out here. Veteran guys with veteran starting experience under their belt. Or you could go out and trade for James Daniels, which you've already looked into. I hear Zach Martin is on the market. I haven't heard anything about us looking into them, but maybe you look into Zach Martin. There are options here for the Miami Dolphins if they want to upgrade this offensive line and just get a little bit more stability and certainty in those rooms, because Jack Driscoll is still an uncertain. Yes, he looked a lot better yesterday than he had when I was down for the joint practices against those same Atlanta Falcons. But are we banking on one game? It's why we also got to learn to temper expectations with certain players that are either rookies that are strong in their first game or guys we've been waiting for a couple years and had breakout moments yesterday, right? Perfect example I'll give you, Eazy-E. Had 114 or 116 yards in that second ever preseason game that he played against the Raiders. Where's he now? Preston Williams. Where is he now? Lynn Bowden Jr. Where is he now? You see? So we got to temper our expectations a little bit too. I'm not saying don't get hyped up, because you should get hyped up. No, I do not want Fluker. We've done that. We've done that. Chef Juice says it was loud at the stadium last night. That's good to hear, considering it looked empty. So, I don't know. We'll see. But there's options. See, I'm giving you options here. Right? I'm giving you options here. So, I'm not just a person that brings problems to your guys' doorstep. I'm here to provide solutions as well. Let's do it. We haven't done it in a while. It's been months, ladies and gentlemen. We haven't done it since January, I believe? We haven't done it since January. You know what I'm talking about. Let's get into some PFF grades, baby. Okay? Let's get into some PFF grades. So, here we go right here. Getting into those PFF grades. Let's start off with the offense. And Jalen Wright was your top graded offensive player at 69.4. Jack Driscoll was number 2 at 69.2. See, I mean, the grades aren't even good. But again, what do I always tell you guys? I show you guys these grades so you can say, hey, I saw what PFF graded them. I always tell you guys, take their grades, go back and watch the game again, and compare their grades to what you see with your eyes. Right? Never ever take PFF as gospel. To be honest with you, I'm just here more for their. I don't really pay attention a lot to their grades. Like when I'm on PFF on my own and not live with you guys, I more so look at their analytics and stuff like that and their breakdowns. Patrick Paul was a number 3 at 64.7. Like I would say Patrick Paul was better than Jack Driscoll yesterday, but hey. Tanner Connor, number 4 at 64.3, and Sean Harlow, number 5 at 64.1. Jody Fortson, number 6 at 62.7. Malik got a 59.8. When you go to the bottom here, your worst graded, Mike White, a 30.7. Braylon Sanders, a 35.4. Jaquan Burton, a 43.3. Skylar Thompson, a 45.2. And Willie Snead, a 45.3. Willie Snead, Mike White, and Braylon Sanders should have been the lowest graded guys last night. In my opinion, at least. When we flip over to let's get into the passing, because it wasn't that pretty. So when you look at Skylar here, they had him charted as 0 for 2 on deep, 1 for 5 on the intermediate level. Not good either. And then they had him 4 for 8 on the short level and 3 for 3 behind the line of scrimmage. He was kept clean on 52.4% of his dropbacks, where he was 5 for 9 through a touchdown for 30 yards. He had 2 drops. His average depth of target was 4.6. His adjusted completion percentage was 77.8 when you add in the drops, right? So he should have been 7 of 9. Under pressure, he was 3 of 10 and an interception. Yards per attempt was 6.5. Average depth of target was 10.8 yards. He had 2 drops as well while he was under pressure, so 4 drops in total. His adjusted completion percentage jumps to about 55.6. You look at his time to throw. When he's kept clean, 2.49 seconds. When he's under pressure, about 3.06 seconds. His passer rating, also NFL passer rating, dropped when he was kept clean from 99.3 all the way to 14.6. Whew. Brutal. And then Mike White, it don't get much better. 0 for 2 on the deep level, 0 for 1 on the intermediate level, 2 for 7 on the short level, and 2 for 2 behind the line of scrimmage. 3 for 11 when he was kept clean. And he's kept clean on 82.4% of his dropbacks. And he was 3 for 11 for 25 yards, 2.3 yards per attempt. Average depth of target, though, was 9.9. His adjusted completion percentage, because he had 3 drops when he was kept clean, so he really should have been 6 for 11. His average depth, his adjusted completion percentage jumps all the way from 27.3% to 60%. His NFL passer rating was 39.6. His time to throw when he's kept clean, 2.6. Under pressure, his time to throw was about 3 seconds. And NFL passer rating was actually a little bit better than when he's kept clean. Went to 42.4. He was 1 for 3 under pressure for 1 yard. No drops, so nothing really changes very much there. Just ugly stuff from the quarterback position yesterday. Ugly. When we get into let's get into blocking, actually. So here were the pressures allowed yesterday. We'll get into that. So Ryan Hayes allowed 4. Patrick Paul was charged with allowing 2 pressures. Kion Smith allowed 1. Andrew Meyer allowed 1. And Sean Harlow allowed 1 as well. So Patrick Paul allowed a quarterback hit in a hurry. Ryan Hayes allowed 2 quarterback hits and 2 hurries. Kion Smith allowed a quarterback hit. Andrew Meyer allowed a hurry. And Sean Harlow allowed 1 hit. So, in total, 9 pressures? That's not bad. Now, when you flip over to the defense, Siran Neal was your number 1 rated defender. He looked real good till he got hurt. Jason Maitre was number 2. Jonathan Harris was look at on offense, it started in the high 60s. Here it started in the 90s. Jonathan Harris was number 3. Curtis Bolton, who I was raving about yesterday, he was another tackle machine. He was the 4th highest. Brandon Pilley was 5th highest. Needham 6th highest. Grayson Murphy 7th highest. I think Patrick McMorris should be graded higher. He was only the 8th highest. Neville Gallimore at 10. Mark Perry at 9. And then your worst graded guys were Leonard Payne. I thought he was better than a 41.8. I thought Duke Riley was better than a 48.2. I thought Zeke Vandenberg was better than a 51.3. Deshaun Hand was 3rd worst at 49.7. And Cam Brown, 5th worst at 51.4. Tyndall, 6th worst at 52.7. So, and like Storm Duck, I thought he was better than a 60.8. So now I did think Isaiah Mack was good. Isaiah Johnson showed some stuff too. So there are certain things I agree with. When we get into coverage, let's get into the coverage matchups. And here we go. Storm Duck, he was targeted 5 times. He allowed 1 reception for 16 yards, which was obviously a first down. But Hilaire had a drop, but he also had a pass breakup on Chris Blair. Patrick McMorris, this is probably why his rating went, he was targeted 4 times. He only allowed 3 receptions for 9 yards. He allowed 1 first down, but he also had a pass breakup. I thought Patrick McMorris was very good yesterday. Ethan Bonner targeted 4 times, allowed 1 reception, that big 41-yard reception. Jordan Colbert targeted 3 times, allowed 1 reception. Isaiah Johnson, he was targeted 3 times, allowed no receptions. Curtis Bolton, he was targeted 3 times, allowed all 3 receptions for 17 yards. Channing Tindall, he was targeted 3 times, allowed 2 receptions and 1 first down for 19 yards in total. Duke Riley targeted twice, allowed 2 receptions for 20 yards, 1 first down. He was allowing yards after the catch, though. That's the issue, right? Jason Maitre, targeted twice, allowed 0 receptions. Siran Neal targeted twice, allowed 1 reception to Chris Blair for 4 yards. Nick Needham targeted twice, allowed 1 reception. And he had that beautiful pass breakup against Kaderil Hodge. That was beautiful stuff. Marcus May targeted once, allowed 1 reception for 4 yards. Cam Brown targeted once, allowed 0 receptions. Zeke Vandenberg targeted once, allowed no receptions. So, again, I thought overall the defense was very strong yesterday. Very, very strong. Especially I thought, at least against the run. I thought they were very strong against the run. That's what I saw yesterday. Very, very strong run defense. I was very impressed with what I saw. Very impressed. So I really thought the interior was good. I expected a little bit more pressure in terms of from the edges. Because when you look at it yesterday, right? Again, the most pressures we had yesterday, Brandon Pilley had 4, Neville Gallimore had 4, Jonathan Harris had 2, Isaiah Mack had 2. So, yesterday we had 14 pressures, right? And 12 of those came from the interior defensive line. And then Channing Tindall and Quentin Bell had the singular other pressure. So 1 from a linebacker, 1 from an edge player. So I expected a little bit more pressure from the edge, but hey, I'll take it any way you're throwing it, baby. Don't worry about me. I ain't going to get picky. So big fan of what I'm a big fan of what we saw yesterday. Big fan of what we saw from that defensive front yesterday. Man, I'm excited to see Anthony Weaver's defense in action when the starters are out there and we're good to go. Man, I think this defense can. I told all y'all. What did I say? I said I didn't think there would be much of a drop-off from Fangio to Weaver. I said I expected a top 5, top 10 defense again. I said this from the moment we brought in Weaver. And why did I say this? Because a lot of our core who've been around since Flores, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff that's familiar to them, except obviously the terminology is different and there's going to be a few different things. But again, I always tell y'all, Weaver and Flores, you can trace their roots back to Rex Ryan's defense and what he does. So very similar. And I agree with what BX just said. Defensive line cuts are going to be tough. They are going to be tough. You're going to lose someone if you try to slide them on like a Brandon Peely. You might lose trying to slide them on to the the practice squad. But BX, man, we haven't had that problem in quite a while, have we? Right? I mean, for all the people that say Chris Greerden doesn't do a good job, what you just said totally contradicts that. And I'm not saying you say that. I'm just saying what you just said right there. When we're going to have a lot of tough cuts at a lot of different positions on both sides of the football, that means your GM did a damn good job of putting the talent together for your head coach. And your coaching staff has done a damn good job of coaching them up. Because I'm going to say this. I love what we're seeing from these UDFAs. I mean, I think a lot of us, when we saw Sean Harlow, Jack Driscoll looked better than reports had said, and then what I had seen at joint practices. I think when we saw the depth guys holding, now again, they're against 3s and 4s, and guys are going to be stocking shelves in a couple weeks. I get that, but still, you got to start somewhere. So, you know what I mean? Now let's get into this because I know people want to talk about it. So let's talk about it. As Dolphins backup quarterback struggle, Tannehill waits for the right opportunity and some injury news. The Dolphins showed great conviction in Mike White when they signed him to be the backup quarterback in the first hour of free agency 18 months ago. It would be helpful if White more consistently justified that faith. The former Jets backup has been uneven throughout training camp and struggled badly in Friday's preseason win against Atlanta, going 4 for 14 for 26 yards and a 39.6 passer rating while playing the entire second half. In his defense, receiver dropped at least 2 catchable passes, and he's playing mostly with third stringers who won't be on the team. We had a rough set of circumstances, McDaniel said. In the second half, we were down to 1 tight end and 1 running back, and we had a receiver that we just got on board 2 days ago. It was a tough situation for White to be in, and I thought he maintained his composure, but we still have a ton of work to do. White's take, this was White's take. White's take was we were limited to what we could run, and I think the other side of the ball knew that too, so it's kind of But there's still other things you can work on as a quarterback that I thought I got good reps at. As has been the case throughout camp, Skylar Thompson was somewhat better, but hardly great on Friday, completing 8 of 19 passes for 95 yards, 1 touchdown and an interception, and a poor 53.6 passer rating. Thompson played the entire first half. McDaniel said Wednesday that the White-Thompson quarterback competition to back up Tua Tagovailoa is neck and neck. The Dolphins are more likely than not to stick with White and or Thompson because of the lack of appealing outside options and the challenges a new quarterback would face learning the offense quickly. Ryan Tannehill, who spent his first 6 seasons with the Dolphins, is the only free agent quarterback who would be considered an upgrade over White or Thompson. But Tannehill's play has declined the past 2 years. After throwing 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for Tennessee in 2020, he threw 21 and 14 in 2021, 13 and 6 in 2022, and 4 and 7 in 10 games and 8 starts last season while dealing with injuries and losing his job to rookie Will Levis. Tannehill told the Scoop City podcast in late July that he's been selected but would jump wholeheartedly the right opportunity presents itself. Waiting for that chance is a weird feeling, right? Tannehill said of not having a team during training camp. Just because I've done it for so long, I'm staying in shape and staying ready if the right thing pops up. But right now, it's going to depend on the situation. I'm not just going to continue to add years to add years. I'm not ruling anything out, but it's going to have to be the right situation for me and my family. Nothing really felt right through free agency, and through that, I had a lot of peace with it. If something comes up down the road, whether that's training camp, maybe a guy goes down on a team, you never know what's going to happen, but I'm not waiting on pins and needles for that call. The list of other available free agent quarterbacks is unimpressive. Brian Hoyer, Blaine Gabbert, A.J. McCarron, Matt Barkley, Trevor Siemian, Nathan Peterman, Logan Woodside, and Ben DiNucci. I would agree. Where are you going there with any of that stuff? The only other option I would like is maybe you try and trade for Case Keenum. None of White's, if he gets cut, right? If they keep Davis Mills, I could see Ryan Tannehill and whoever loses that Case Keenum, Davis Mills battle being the next guy up. So none of White's $3.5 million salary for 2025 is guaranteed, and his $5.2 million cap hit would drop to $1.7 million if he's cut. That puts him at risk if Thompson beats him out, but both quarterbacks likely would need to be very poor in the weeks ahead for Miami to consider outside options. There's less incentive to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster this season because of a newer rule. Unlike last year, third quarterback isn't required to be on the 53-man roster in order to play. This season, the emergency quarterback rule allows the third quarterback to play only if the first 2 quarterbacks are unavailable due to injury or ejection. Once an injured quarterback is cleared to return, the emergency quarterback must exit that game. So, beyond center Aaron Brewer's hand injury that could sideline this week, the Dolphins sustained several other injuries on Friday. Kion Smith, he sustained a torn ACL, is done for the year. Cornerback Sierra Neal and inside linebacker Zeke Vandenberg left with injuries after playing just 18 and 16 snaps. Neal should be fine, while Vandenberg is undergoing an MRI on his leg. So this might be the second year in a row Zeke gets hurt. Outside linebacker Grayson Murphy, who's been among the Dolphins' most impressive undrafted free agents, left with an injury and had an immobilized brace on his right knee after the game. Oh no, not my boy Grayson. Offensively, tight end Jody Fortson, who left the locker room during the game, received good news. His injury was a stinger, nothing more serious. The Dolphins now wait word on the severity of tight end Tanner Connor's injury, which made him grimace angrily as he walked to the locker room after catching 3 passes for 70 yards. Ethan Bonner allowed a 41 completion to Chris Blair, who might have committed a penalty on the play, but was otherwise very good in his bid to be the Dolphins' number 3 boundary corner. Channing Tindall had the Dolphins only sack late in the first half on a blitz. Patrick McMorris was the only Dolphins player with more than 1 tackle for a loss. He had 2 tackles for losses among his team-high 8 tackles. That's exceptional production in 38 defensive snaps. Defensively, linebacker Curtis Bolton played the most snaps at 55 or 77%. Storm Duck and Tindall each played 53. Aside from players who were injured during the game, the fewest defensive snaps were logged by players projected for the 53-man roster. Linebacker Duke Riley, Quentin Bell, and Elijah Campbell. The starting offensive line from left to right was Patrick Paul, Smith, Kion Smith, Jack Driscoll, Lester Cotton, and Ryan Hayes. Paul played very well, and Sean Harlow excelled in the run game in the second half. Driscoll held his own at center and didn't have any bad snaps after enduring snapping problems during the previous practices. Hayes played the most snaps offensively, 65 or 96% of the snaps. Paul logged 63 snaps and Harlow 60. Receiver Kyrick McGowan played the most among skill position players. Cotton, whose preseason has been described as phenomenal by McDaniel, played 17 snaps, the fewest of the starting offensive linemen. Former Miami Hurricanes receiver Harley Jr., who signed with Miami on Wednesday, played 9 snaps. Jason Sanders' 58-yard field goal tied Caleb Sturgis for the longest preseason field goal by a Dolphins kicker this century. Yeah, I mean, he hit that 58-yarder and we were all happy, and then he missed that next 58-yarder by like a freaking quarter mile, but I mean, I'm not going to hold it against him by any stretch of the imagination. What can you say? I mean, here's the deal, all right? The quarterback struggled, but are we going to go and bring in a Ryan Tannehill? I doubt it. I really doubt it. I think they're going to go with the cheaper options. Now, if something, knock on wood, would have happened to Tua, then I could see them, especially if we've had a great start to the season, we're in a prime position, et cetera, then I could see them making a move at quarterback and not settling with the expectations and, everything that's on the line this season, not settling and putting those on the shoulders of Skylar Thompson or Mike White. I mean, that would just be the smart move, right? I mean, what else can we say here? But man, a lot of good stuff came out of yesterday. A ton of good stuff came out yesterday of that game. So, I mean, I'm liking what we saw yesterday. I really, really am. Now, I don't like how the injuries are starting to mount on the offensive line already. But does it force their hand? Maybe. Maybe it forces our hand. So, I mean, we'll see. Now, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this because obviously with the injury to Kion Smith, this is from Pro Football Network, the odds of Patrick Paul contributing for the Miami Dolphins in 2024 have gotten shorter. The Miami Dolphins need to find a way to get their 5 best offensive linemen on the field. And right now, given the team's mounting injuries and revealing a preseason opener, Patrick Paul is probably one of those 5 best. Kion Smith on Friday joined Aaron Brewer and Isaiah Wynn on the Dolphins' growing list of injured players. Smith tore his ACL, ending his season before it began. As a result, the Dolphins are now paper thin on the line, particularly the interior. But all seemed a little less dire after watching Paul excel for 63 snaps against the Falcons Friday night. Per PFF, Paul allowed 0 sacks and just 2 pressures on 36 pass rush snaps. He was an eraser in the ground game, helping spring fellow Jalen Wright for multiple long runs. It was everything the Dolphins envisioned when they made Paul the 55th overall pick in the draft. We kind of want to see how he was doing during the game. Mike McDaniel said, "We were very comfortable with it, and Butch wanted to keep him in a couple extra drives. Our plan was at the beginning of the third quarter to get him a series and get him out, and we left him in a little bit. I thought he had some real good opportunities to learn, and I thought he played fast and physical." Added Miami Dolphins quarterback Mike White, "Pat was awesome. I think what I liked about Pat too was his demeanor on the field. He was very calm. The moment didn't seem too big for him. He was humongous human. So that's one thing that benefits him. But his mentality today is what stood out to me. It felt like the moment never got too big for him. All that being said, there's no obvious place for Paul on the field right now unless the Dolphins shockingly move him, Austin Jackson or Terron Armstead, to guard. Nothing certainly can be ruled out if things get really desperate, but right now that scenario seems unlikely. Paul instead should be focused on leapfrogging Kendall Lamb on the depth chart. Lamb was the Dolphins' 4th most used offensive lineman in 2023 due to injuries to Armstead and Jackson. If Paul can win the OT3 job, you'll almost certainly see big-time game action in 2023. The Dolphins should also consider using Paul as a 6th offensive lineman in heavy run packages. As White said, he's a mountain of a man and could provide big value as a run blocking tight end. Quote, "There are moments in it where you just go and give it out there and you realize, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, this is what I made for," Paul said late Friday. "I've had those moments. You just got to keep building, trusting in his coaching and trusting in what is their plan for me." So listen, he's not moving to guard. And I'm going to go even further than that. I wouldn't toy with him at right tackle. I would get him settled in at left tackle. I just wouldn't give him reps to give him reps and start messing with what the foundation you're starting to build right now, right? You've moved Eichenberg to every single spot on the offensive line. You moved Austin Jackson to every spot on the offensive line until you finally settled him in. You know where he's best at right now, all right? The muscle memory for his body is playing that left side, whether it's going to his kick slide, whether it's, the hands when he starts his punch or when he gets out of his stance, whatever the case may be, the muscle memory is stuck to that left side. You've got something going here. I would not start playing around with him and moving him around. So, guard is off the table for me. And I would have to be real desperate to put him at right tackle because I would want him locked in at left tackle. He knows what's expected of him. That's the future left tackle. That's the future heir to that left tackle position, et cetera, et cetera. So I would not start playing, musical chairs like we've done with these other kids. Find his best fit, which we all know what it is. It's left tackle. And stick him there and keep him there so his focus can be directed on that. And there's no other outside distractions of having to learn to move with your right side, having to learn to get in a kick slide with your right side first. There's none of those distractions. Now you just focus on perfecting your craft at the left tackle spot because that's where he'll be next year. Exactly what Scotty said. I hate the jack of all trades, master at none. Let him master left tackle. Period. Don't play no games. Leave him there. Let him do what he's got to do. Over 400 of you in the room right now on YouTube. I appreciate all y'all for tuning in. I want you to smash that like button or subscribe if you are new. I am going to have a Patreon update coming either tonight or tomorrow night as well. I got a couple things that I wanted to discuss, so be out on the lookout for that Patreon 3 takes update coming to all of you. If you want to become a Patreon, patreon.com/Phinside The NFL. You get a ton of extra video content, but if you're a channel member, you never miss anything breaking or any insider info that comes my way because I put it into written form under the community tab for all of my members. So if you're a member, you don't miss anything. But if you are a Patreon, you get a little bit more video content, right? So listen, I appreciate all of you guys for spending some of your Saturday with me. The Dolphins start the preseason off on the right foot, but it comes at a cost with some injuries, clearly. And, you know, it also comes with the realization that this quarterback 2 job, it needs to be fixed real soon. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Love each and every one of you. Fins up, and I'll see y'all in the next one.